I never imagined a simple lie could bring someone to the edge of their entire life, but here I am, staring at the consequences of choices I thought were harmless. My name is Alex, I'm 32 years old, and I used to believe I had complete control over my relationships, that I knew exactly how far I could push someone before they snapped. Turns out I was completely wrong. It all began one ordinary Thursday evening. My girlfriend Mia had invited me over for what she called a fun little get-together at her apartment. Just a few friends, wine, laughter, the usual small crowd where everyone felt safe enough to let their personalities shine. But that night, something invisible shifted. I walked in thinking it would be a casual night, nothing serious, nothing life-changing. How could I have known that in less than 3 hours, my entire world would tilt? Mia was already there, laughing with her friends, her voice carrying across the room, loud and carefree. I watched her for a moment, remembering why I fell for her. The charm, the confidence, the way she could make a joke out of almost anything. But that charm had an edge tonight, a sharpness I hadn't noticed before. She had a habit of mocking me lightly, teasing me about little things in front of others, a habit I had tolerated because, well, I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. The conversation drifted to relationships, trust, and fidelity, a topic that always makes people a little uneasy. Someone asked what would happen if a partner cheated and how the other would react. Mia's eyes glinted as she leaned in toward the group. Without a second thought, she laughed and said, "Oh, Alex? If he ever cheated? He'd probably get away with it. I'd just tease him, make him feel awkward, and everyone would laugh." The room erupted with laughter, her friends agreeing, making small jokes about how lucky or silly men can be. I froze for a second because at that moment I had already made a decision. Weeks before, I had quietly ended an affair, a relationship I never admitted to anyone, a secret I carried like a weight no one else could see. I had ended it cleanly, decisively, making sure there would be no chance of it resurfacing. But Mia had no idea. To her, it was just another joke, another way to poke fun at me in front of others. She didn't know that the very thing she was laughing about had already happened, and that I had already walked away from it in my heart. I tried to laugh along with the group, masking the tension rising inside me. I told myself it was harmless, just a joke, nothing serious. But her tone, her glee, her complete oblivion to the weight of her words, it started to chip away at the calm I had maintained for weeks. As the night continued, she leaned closer, still teasing, still mocking, still oblivious. "You'd never even notice," she said with that sly little smile. "Honestly, I can't even imagine you handling anything serious." And in that moment I felt something inside me snap. Not anger, not a fit of rage, but a cold clarity. I had ended it. Everything that had been complicated, messy, full of lies and deceit, I had closed that chapter. And yet here she was, joking about it as if none of it mattered. We left the apartment together later that night, and for a moment, everything seemed normal. We drove in silence, the city lights reflecting off the windshield, painting everything in fleeting shadows. I could feel her curiosity, her attempt to bridge the gap with small questions, small attempts at laughter. But I didn't answer. I stayed quiet, letting the silence stretch, letting the weight of the night settle between us. Finally, she turned to me, her eyes searching mine for some sign of understanding, of playfulness, maybe even of shared amusement. "Alex, are you seriously still upset about my joke?" she asked, her tone a mix of confusion and disbelief. I looked at her, not with anger, but with the quiet finality of someone who had already made their choice. "It's not the joke, Mia," I said, my voice calm, almost gentle. "It's the fact that you didn't even realize what I had already done. You mocked something real, something I ended for both our sakes, and you didn't even notice." Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, and I saw the first cracks in her confidence. I didn't know," she stammered. "I was just—" "Exactly," I interrupted softly. "You were just joking. Just teasing. Just making light of something that already had consequences. And that's why it matters." We arrived at her place. She expected me to walk in, to resume the familiar routine we had before this night. But I stayed in the car for a moment, letting the silence speak louder than any words could. She looked at me, a flicker of realization crossing her face, but it was too late. She didn't understand yet. I finally stepped out, not with a slam or a shout, but with that quiet decisiveness that leaves no room for negotiation. I had ended it. I had already closed that chapter weeks ago. And now, watching her reach for words, for laughter, for excuses, I knew the finality of it was sinking in. And that's when I realized something else, something deeper. The mockery, the teasing, the obliviousness, it was never really about the joke. It was about respect, about boundaries, about understanding when someone has already made a decision that changes everything. That night she laughed, she mocked, and she thought nothing of it. But I had already ended everything. And now she was finally about to understand that some endings aren't negotiable, aren't reversible, and aren't something you can laugh off.